Good morning, everyone. Today is the 23rd day of Iyar, and let's start with counting the Omer. We're on the top of page 139 to count the Omer. Hayayim, Shmaina, Ushleishim, Yayim, Shehem, Chamisha Shavuos, Ushleisha Yamim La Omer. Today is 38 days, which is 5 weeks and 3 days of the Omer. And today's learning we're going to dedicate to Aaron's father, Yortzai Moshe ben Yitzchak Tzvi is Neshama Shalem and Aliyah. Okay, let me just back this up the drop so I can get out of the sun here. And before you leave, you can have a little mezainis l'chaim in the back in memory of Moshe ben Yitzchak Tzvi. And we are going to begin the 51st chapter of Tanya, having established in the previous chapter that the ultimate purpose of man's creation, even or especially following the most burning love and desire for Hashem, is to make Hashem's oneness here on earth. Tanya will now address the revelation of the divine presence, its meaning, and how we affect it. In today's lesson, the analogy of the soul-body relationship provides key insights into the godliness-universe relationship, both in terms of being everywhere equally, while simultaneously residing primarily in a specific center. Hashem can do whatever he wants, so he could reside in a specific place and everywhere all at the same time. Perek Nunav, chapter 51. The title page of Tanya tells us that the entire work of Tanya is based on the pasuk, Ikarev elecha davar ma'od. This thing is very near to you, in your mouth, in your heart, that you may do it. Asay. We're Perek 51, Perek Nunav. It implies that the ultimate purpose of the entire Torah is the fulfillment of the mitzvahs, that you may do it in practice. In order to clarify this, chapter 35 began to explain the purpose of the entire Seder Shtalshalus, the chain of descent of spiritual levels from the highest, from Hashem down to the physical world, and of man's serving Hashem. Try not to shake the table, please. The purpose of both is to bring a revelation of Hashem's presence into this physical world and to elevate the world spiritually so that it becomes a dwelling place for Hashem. To further explain this, chapter 35 quoted the words of the Yanuka and the Zayhar that a Yid. Why are you shaking the table though? That a Yid should not walk 4 cubits without a yarmulke, bareheaded, because the Shekhinah dwells above his head. This light of the divine presence, continuous desire, resembles the light of a lamp. We learned that, where oil and wick are needed for the flame to keep burning. A Jew should therefore be aware, says the Zayar, of the Shekhinah above him and keep it supplied with oil. What's the oil? Good deeds, mitzvahs, in order to ensure that the flame of the Shekhinah keeps its hold on the wick, the physical body. Now, in this chapter, in chapter 51, the Alter Rebbe explains further the teachings of the Yanuka, that this light of the Shekhinah needs oil. In the Zayar, oil usually refers to the sphere of Chachma, literally wisdom. Here, though, the Yanuka takes it to refer to mitzvahs, good deeds. So what's the connection between the practical mitzvahs and the oil, quote-unquote, which refers to Chachma? To further explain the words that we learned earlier, where the Yanuka was quoted as saying that the light of the Shekhinah, which dwells on a Jew, needs oil, which means good deeds. What's the connection to good deeds and this oil, which usually refers to Chachma? So first we have to understand and explain so it's necessary to first explain so that one may understand a little bit the concept of the Shekhinah dwelling. What does it mean, dwelling? That it dwelt in the Holy of Holies. Indeed, there are detailed laws defining the marks of respect due to the Kodesh HaKadosh and Holy of Holies, because the Shekhinah was dwelling there. And likewise, any place where the Shekhinah dwells. What does this concept mean? That there's a Shekhinah in the Aron Kodesh. What's it meant when we say that a particular location has the Shekhinah there? Doesn't Hashem fill the entire world? The whole world is filled with Hashem, and there's no place void of Him. So the Alter Rebbe is now going to explain that the Shekhinah is dwelling upon something means that the revelation of that aspect of Hashem's presence, known as the Shekhinah. Although God exists everywhere, his existence is concealed. But when the Shekhinah dwells on something, this denotes a revelation of godliness. However, the key to understanding the subject is to be found in the text, and from my flesh I see God. So the Alter Rebbe understands these words literally. From what we see within ourselves, in our own body and soul, we can visualize the parallel on the spiritual level, in the divine emanations of the world and the world in general. He's not going to give an explanation. By way of an analogy, the human soul pervades all 248 organs of the body, from the head, the highest part of the body, to the foot, the lowest part of the body. The soul pervades the entire body to the extent that no organ or portion of it remains void of the soul. Every single part of your body, even including your baby toe. Nevertheless, the soul's main place of dwelling is in the brain. And from the brain, it's diffused and spread out to all the other organs. So this takes place in all the organs simultaneously. It's not like certain organs get certain parts of the neshama or whatever. Everything goes straight. The fusion of the soul refers to the life force with which the organs derive their energy, their vitality. In which respect, all organs are equal. This is one aspect of the soul's emanation from the brain to the organs. And a Hasidic terminology can be termed light, a revelation which is equal throughout. And there's a second aspect. The second aspect of the emanation that the organs derive from the soul, which is in the brain, is the following. Chol Eiver Mekabel Mimena Chayes V'Koyach Haroi Loi Lefi Mizgoi U'Schunosoi. Each organ receives from it, from the soul, a different form of life force and functional power appropriate to it according to the organ's composition and character. Pi and Lira is the eye receives the life, the soul. The eye receives from the soul a life force and ability to see. So the power of sight accords with the smooth and translucent nature of the tissue of the eye. The ear receives from the soul a life force and ability to hear, the mouth, the life force to speak, the feet to walk, etc. Each organ in the body in accordance with its composition and character, receiving its life force and ability from the neshama of the soul, which dwells and becomes revealed initially in the brain. We see clearly we see how in the brain one is conscious of all that occurs within the 248 organs and of everything experienced by them, because the brain is the nerve center and principal abode and source of the life force of the entire body. And now the variation in receiving the functional powers and life force by the organs of the body from the soul. Each organ mitzad atzma mahusa receiving from the soul a life force and power in a different form does not derive sheyeh mahusa v'atzmusim mischalek v'ramach chalokim shoynim mislabshim v'ramach mekoymos kefi tziur chelkei mekoymos evrei haguf. It does not derive from the soul's essence and being that we should say that its being and essence is divided into 248 parts, which are enclosed in 248 locations, according to the design of the various locations of the body's organs. What does this mean? Were this the case, we would say that within the soul itself, there are already revealed and differentiated the various functions, powers of sight, hearing, and so on, and that these 248 powers which exist within the soul are enclosed in the body's 248 organs, each in its appropriate location. But this approach we cannot accept. Why? Because according to this, it would follow that the soul's essence and being is designed in a physical design and a likeness and structure similar to the structure of the body, God forbid. Just as the organs of the body have various shapes and forms, So according to this outlook, are the functional powers while still within the soul, different from each other in form. But again, this is not acceptable. Rather, elakulam etzem echad ruchani. The soul is entirely a single spiritual entity. Pashat umushat b'chol mikol tzir gashmi b'chinas v'gader makoim umidag v'ol gashmi. Rather, is the soul entirely a single spiritual entity? It's one, a single entity, two, a spiritual entity, and as a single entity, its oneness is plain and uncompounded. As a spiritual entity, it is a form which is divested of any physical design and of any type of dimension of physical space, measure, or limitation. It's godly and spiritual in nature. The soul, by virtue of its intrinsic being in essence, is plain and free of. It doesn't have the same dimensions, if you will, and space and time the way the physical body does. And it's not valid to say concerning the neshama's being in essence that it's in the brain of the head more than it's in the feet, since its being in essence is not subject to the concept and dimension of physical space and limitation, as I just mentioned. It's therefore impossible to attribute to the soul this limitation of being more in the head than in the feet. The 613 kinds of functional powers and vital forces are included within the soul, within its being and essence, to become actualized and emerge from this concealment and inclusion within the soul's essence. In order to animate the 248 organs and 365 blood vessels in the body through the functional powers of the divine soul, becoming enclosed within the animated soul, which also possesses the corresponding 248 and 365 functional powers and vital forces. So that's the mashal. And tomorrow he's going to translate, I believe he's going to now explain how this compares to the way God exists. You could already draw your own conclusions, most, starting in Kodesh HaKadosh, but it doesn't mean that Hashem is any less in you or in this room or anywhere that we find ourselves or anywhere in the world. Even the smallest blade of grass and the lowest peaks and the tallest mountains, Hashem is everywhere just the same, as we'll explain more tomorrow. So the takeaway is, if we understand how your body works, you can get an appreciation of how Hashem works. God made the body mirror in microcosm his relationship with the world. You have a soul which in essence is without definition. It contains in it the possibility to energize all your limbs. Hashem similarly is undefined, yet contains the energy for all matter. Beautiful. Shavua tov, good tevach. All the best to you.